In the last moment of consciousness fading, I saw Caleb. He was wearing a crisp military uniform, like a silent evergreen pine, holding on to my tombstone, wiping it over and over again. My photo on the tombstone was smiling like a fool. His hands, once steady and powerful from gripping steel guns, were now trembling uncontrollably. A burning tear fell from his crimson eyes and hit my cold tombstone. He said, "Aurora, I'll take you home." It turned out that, after my death, he really did go mad. Carrying my ashes, he embarked on one last mission where the odds of survival were almost non-existent. It turned out that Dylan, my little schoolmate whom the whole family cherished and was so proud of, was the true culprit behind my death. A sharp screech of brakes tore through my ears once again, jolting me awake, my body covered in cold sweat. The phone beside me was in an active call, and from it came a voice that I had once known intimately, but now made my heart feel as if it were being sliced by a knife. "Aurora, I promise you, I'll be there within half an hour." It was Caleb. Outside the window, Dylan was waving his phone at me with a triumphant smile on his face. In that instant, I understood, I had been reborn. I was reborn on the day Caleb proposed to me for the 9th time. The same day something terrible happened to him. "Caleb, listen to me. Don't come. Cancel. Cancel everything planned for today." I screamed into the phone, my voice trembling uncontrollably. On the other end of the line, Caleb's voice was hoarse as if brushed by the wind, yet it remained gentle enough to melt hearts. "Aurora, what's wrong? Don't be afraid, I'll be there soon. This is not a drill. Caleb. I order you to stop the car immediately." I was so frantic that I blurted out commands, even resorting to his military code words. A soft chuckle seemed to come from the other end, followed by the sound of tires screeching against the pavement. "All right, as you wish, I'll stop." My heart eased slightly, and I was just about to let out a sigh of relief when Dylan approached from outside and tapped on my car window. He smiled with an innocent and harmless expression. "Aurora, why not let him come? Didn't you say you wanted to see him go all out for you?" I lowered the car window, my gaze as cold as ice. It was this face, the one that, after my death, deceived everyone with crocodile tears. He pretended to be deeply affectionate, took over my family's company, charmed my parents into submission, and finally drove them out, leaving them homeless on the streets. And I, too, was set up by him, meeting a tragic end. In my previous life, he hypocritically told me that Caleb was severely injured during a mission and might never walk again, advising me not to waste my life on a disabled person. I believed his lies, followed his arrangements, and prepared to go abroad to relax, only to encounter an accidental car crash on the way. Just before dying, I finally learned from his accomplices that Caleb was never actually disabled. In fact, he had performed remarkably well in that mission and was about to be promoted. Dylan was afraid I would go back to Caleb. Since he couldn't have me or my family's fortune, he orchestrated that car accident to eliminate the problem once and for all. "Dylan," I spoke word by word, "how many times are you going to repeat that nonsense about brake failure?" Dylan's expression instantly changed. The sunny, harmless facade cracked, revealing a trace of cold, startled confusion. "Aurora, what did you say?" "I'm telling you," I stared at him intently, "if anything happens to Caleb today, I will make you and the family behind you pay the price." Perhaps my gaze was too terrifying, because Dylan instinctively took a step back, forcing a smile and saying, "Aurora, you're acting really strange today. Are you just too nervous? I'll wait for you over there." Watching his retreating figure, I let out a cold laugh and immediately dialed Caleb's number. "Where are you right now? Send me your exact location, and don't move a single step. I'm coming to find you." Caleb seemed a bit surprised by my assertiveness but still obediently provided an address, a crossroads less than 2 kilometers from the lakeside amusement park. He was indeed almost here. I hung up the phone, pressed the accelerator all the way down, and the car shot forward like an arrow released from a bow. "Dylan, in this lifetime, let's settle our accounts properly. Caleb, my beloved, this time, I'm the one running toward you. I don't want you to run 18 red lights for me anymore, and I don't want you to throw your life away for me. The car came to a perfect stop at the intersection with a sharp drift, and I immediately spotted Caleb's familiar military off-road vehicle. He saw me too, stepping out of the car in a simple service uniform, his posture still as straight and steady as a pine tree. Under the sunlight, his features were striking, deep-set eyes, a tall, straight nose, though his gaze carried traces of fatigue and reddened eyes that he hadn't quite managed to conceal. I knew he must have just completed a mission and rushed straight here from the base, driving for hours to make our half-hour appointment on time. In my previous life, I had taken all of this for granted. My nose tingled, and tears nearly fell. Aurora, didn't I tell you not to move? Why did you come here? He walked quickly toward me, his brows slightly furrowed with a hint of barely noticeable concern. I rushed over, throwing myself recklessly into his arms. The familiar scent, carrying faint traces of tobacco and sunshine, enveloped me. His firm, warm chest finally settled the anxiety that had hung in my heart all along. Caleb. I miss you so much. I clung to his sturdy waist, my voice muffled and choked with tears. His body stiffened, clearly caught off guard by my sudden warmth. In the past 9 proposals, I had always been the lofty queen, reserved and haughty, never taking the initiative to embrace him. I rarely even let him hold my hand. Aurora, you. He patted my back somewhat clumsily, as if soothing a startled kitten. Just then, a piercing engine roar grew louder and closer. I abruptly turned my head to see Dylan's flashy red sports car, like an out-of-control beast, charging straight toward us. Watch out. Caleb reacted with lightning speed. A second before I could scream, he had already wrapped an arm around my waist and, with incredible strength and speed, pulled me away from the spot. We rolled on the ground together, and he shielded me tightly underneath him, using his back to bear the full force of the impact. With a loud crash, Dylan's sports car narrowly missed Caleb's back and collided with the guardrail beside us. The front of the car instantly crumpled inwards, emitting white smoke. Everything fell silent for 2 seconds. Lying on Caleb's chest, I could clearly hear his steady, strong heartbeat, once, then again. Caleb, are you okay? Are you hurt? I propped myself up, frantically checking him over. The back of his regular uniform was torn through by the rough ground, revealing the firm muscles beneath, now bloodied and bruised. I'm fine, don't be afraid. He let out a low grunt, fine beads of cold sweat gathering on his forehead, yet he still turned to comfort me first. Are you hurt? I'm fine, I'm completely fine. Tears, like broken strings of beads, fell heavily onto his chest. It's all my fault, all my fault. If I hadn't called him here, if only I had acted sooner. It's not your fault. He reached out, using his thumb to wipe away my tears. Those eyes, usually as calm and deep as the sea, were now filled with heartache. Dylan stumbled out of the sports car, holding his head and wearing a look of panic. Aurora. Caleb. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. My brakes failed, I really didn't mean to. He ran toward us, his acting so convincing it could win him a little golden statue. In the previous life, it was this exact story that fooled everyone. Back then, I was still impatient and blamed Caleb, saying he couldn't even handle such a small matter and was useless. At the thought of this, my heart ached with a tight pang. I helped Caleb slowly stand up and turn to face Dylan. Before he could get any closer, I raised my hand and slapped him with every ounce of strength I had. Smack. The crisp sound left everyone present stunned. Dylan covered his face, looking at me in disbelief. Aurora, you hit me? Hit you? I could kill you. I pointed at his almost brand new sports car, each word like ice. Dylan, your new car isn't even a month old. You were just showing off how great its performance is in front of me, and now you're telling me the brakes failed? Do you take me for a fool, or do you take the traffic police for fools? Dylan's face turned pale, then flushed with guilt, his eyes flickering uneasily. Caleb also sensed something was off, his gaze toward Dylan instantly sharpened like that of a hawk, the scrutinizing stare of a soldier. Aurora, he asked me in a deep voice, what is going on here? Caleb, this man, he tried to kill you. I pointed at Dylan, my voice trembling with rage. This car crash was no accident at all, it was his deliberate murder attempt. Aurora, don't talk nonsense. Dylan got anxious. Why would I harm Caleb? We have no grievances between us. No grievances? I sneered. You're jealous of him, jealous that I like him. You've been scheming to break us apart, haven't you? Dylan was left speechless by my question. Bystanders had already gathered around, pointing and whispering at us. Caleb frowned even deeper, pulling me behind him to block those prying gazes. He stood like a mountain, steady and composed as he faced Dylan. I've already called the police, he said, taking out his phone, his tone calm but carrying an unquestionable authority. Whether there's a problem with the car or if it was intentional will be determined once the police arrive and investigate. At the mention of calling the police, Dylan's legs went weak. He knew there was nothing wrong with the car, and if it was investigated, he was finished. And no need, Caleb, he forced a smile that looked worse than crying. It's just a misunderstanding. I'll pay for it, I'll cover all your losses. This isn't about money. Caleb's tone turned cold. If you were an ordinary person, that move just now would have killed me. That one sentence made the surrounding whispers grow even louder. Everyone looked at Dylan with condemnation and suspicion in their eyes. I hid behind Caleb, a strange sense of security welling up inside me. This is my man. Calm, powerful, always able to hold up the sky for me when I'm most flustered. And yet, I almost ruined him with my own hands. The traffic police and ambulance arrived quickly. Caleb's back wound needed treatment, but he insisted it was just a minor injury. Still, I forced him into the ambulance. As the driver at fault, Dylan was taken away by traffic police for investigation. Before leaving, he gave me a venomous glance, the look of a venomous snake lurking in the shadows. I stared back at him without fear. In this life, I will not give him any chance to hurt me and Caleb again. In the ambulance, medical personnel were treating Caleb's wounds. As the alcohol swab brushed against the torn and exposed flesh, I could clearly see the tense line of his jaw, but he never made a sound. My heart was clenched tight, holding his hand, as tears once again fell unbidden. Does it hurt badly? He turned his hand to hold mine, his palm dry and warm, as if passing strength to me. Not at all, he looked at me, his obsidian-like eyes reflecting my pitiful state, yet a faint smile touched the corner of his lips. Compared to the heartache you used to make me endure, this injury is nothing. Those words shattered my defenses instantly. Yes, how much hurt and heartache had I made him endure? It was the 9th proposal. For 3 whole years, I had been like a queen on high, indulging in his pursuit and admiration, yet unwilling to offer him any response. I had tested him with all kinds of harsh, even insulting conditions, pushing him away time and time again. Yet he had charged again and again like a tireless warrior, right up until today, when I had nearly taken even the chance to charge from him. I'm sorry, Caleb, I'm sorry. Burying my face in his palm, I sobbed uncontrollably. It was all my fault before, I was the worst, I wasn't human. Silly girl, why are you crying? He sighed, using his uninjured hand to clumsily pat my head. It's all over now. He thought I was apologizing for what happened today. He didn't know that I was apologizing for the path of regret paved with his blood and life in the previous life. At the hospital, after taking x-rays and getting checked, fortunately, there were no bone injuries, only soft tissue contusions and a few deep lacerations. The doctor prescribed medication and advised him to avoid strenuous exercise recently and to rest. I rushed back and forth to pay the fees and pick up the medicine, then helped him sit on a bench in the hospital corridor. People were bustling around, and the smell of disinfectant filled the air. Neither of us spoke, and the atmosphere grew somewhat delicate. After a long moment, he finally murmured softly, "Aurora, you're very different today." I lifted my head and met his searching gaze. He was perceptive, the change in me was too significant, too striking to escape his suspicion. I couldn't tell him I'd been reborn, he'd think I was insane. I sniffled, looking him straight in the eyes, and said earnestly, because I almost lost you, Caleb. Right at the moment Dylan crashed toward us, only one thought was in my head: if you were gone, I wouldn't want to go on living either. This isn't a lie, it's the truth I couldn't bring myself to say in my past life. Caleb visibly stiffened, looking at me with a tumult of complex emotions swirling in his eyes: shock, overwhelming joy, and a touch of cautious disbelief. Aurora, I used to always think that everything you did for me was a given, and I took advantage of your affection, acting recklessly. My voice was soft, yet it carried a firmness I'd never had before. But today, I finally understood that no one owes me anything. Your love isn't something to be taken for granted, it's a blessing I earned in my past life. Caleb, let's get married. I looked into his eyes and uttered these words, one by one. These were the words he was supposed to say to me today. Now, it's my turn. Caleb was completely stunned. He stood there motionless, like a statue, staring at me as if trying to confirm whether he was dreaming. People came and went in the corridor, the chaotic sounds fading into background noise. In his world, perhaps only my words echoed over and over again. I watched as his eyes slowly reddened. This iron-willed man who would bleed without shedding tears now looked as fragile as a child, all because of what I said. After a long while, he finally asked hoarsely, "What did you say?" I said, "Let's get married." I repeated it, then took something out of my pocket and handed it to him. It was a small ring, handmade from a bullet casing, with my name clumsily engraved on it. This was the ring he had prepared when he proposed to me for the first time. Back then, I had scornfully thrown it on the ground like it was trash. Later, I saw him sneak back alone in the darkness, searching through the grass for a long, long time, as if looking for some priceless treasure. This ring, I've kept it all along. In my previous life, I carried it with me until the day I died. When I handed this bullet shell ring to him, the last trace of reason in his eyes crumbled. He reached out with a trembling hand, wanting to take it, but then pulled back as if afraid of being burned. Aurora, you're not joking, are you? Didn't you think it was cheap? It's not cheap. I shook my head, took his hand, and slid the ring onto his ring finger. It's one of a kind. Caleb, I was blind before, but now my eyes are clear. From now on, let me be the one to treat you well, okay? Caleb ultimately still did not let me put that ring on him. He took it from my hand and solemnly placed it in the innermost pocket of his shirt, right over his heart. He said, I must be the one to propose. Aurora, once I've recovered from my injuries, I'll put on my most handsome military uniform, choose the most formal occasion, and place the finest ring in the world on your finger. His eyes were as bright as stars tempered by fire. I smiled and said okay. I knew he wanted to give me a perfect proposal ceremony, to make up for the 8 rushed and bittersweet memories of the past. After leaving the hospital, Caleb insisted on taking me home first. Seeing his back, cleaned up and bandaged, I couldn't possibly agree to let him drive again. I'll drive, you ride in the passenger seat, I said, grabbing the car keys from him with a firm attitude. Unable to persuade me otherwise, he obediently got in. Driving his rugged military-style SUV on the way home, I felt an unprecedented sense of steadiness in my heart. By the way, why don't you call home? Caleb suddenly spoke up, and just say today's proposal. I wasn't prepared, messed it up, and we'll try again another time. I paused for a moment before understanding his meaning. If we went back looking like this now, my parents were bound to question us once they saw us. Given how much they trusted my beloved junior Dylan, they might even pin all the blame on Caleb. In my past life, they often said Caleb was too rough around the edges, lacking in charm and not worthy of me. My heart felt as though it had been pricked by a needle. No need, I said steadily, driving the car with a calm tone. We'll go back just like this. It's time they learn about some things. I want everyone to know exactly what kind of person Dylan is. I also want my parents to see how the man they've always looked down on stands behind me to protect me. When the car stopped in front of my family's villa, my parents happened to be watering the flowers in the yard. Seeing us step out of an unfamiliar SUV, especially with tear stains still on my face and Caleb's clothes torn on the back. They were completely stunned. "Aurora, what's going on? Weren't you attending? Who did you get into a fight with?" My mom dropped the kettle and rushed over, pulling me to look me up and down. My dad also walked over, his gaze landing on Caleb, his brow furrowed. "Caleb, didn't you go to propose? How did you end up like this?" "Uncle, Auntie, I'm sorry. We had a bit of an accident on the way." Caleb stood at attention like a soldier who'd made a mistake, taking all the blame upon himself. "An accident? What kind of accident could make both of you so disheveled?" My mom's tone carried a hint of reproach. "It was Dylan. Dylan drove into us," I said, cutting off Caleb before he could speak again. "What?" my parents exclaimed in unison. "Dylan? That can't be. He's always been such a steady boy." My mother's first reaction was to defend Dylan. My heart sank halfway. "He's steady?" It felt like I had heard the biggest joke of all time. "He nearly killed me and Caleb just now." I recounted the entire incident exactly as it happened, without holding back anything. After hearing it, my father's expression grew increasingly somber. My mother, on the other hand, looked at me with a mix of doubt and disbelief. "Aurora, could there be some misunderstanding here? How could Dylan, that child, do something like this? Could it really be that the brakes failed?" "Mom." I was genuinely angry. "In your heart, am I less than a stranger compared to your own daughter? He was the one who drove straight at us, and it was Caleb who protected me and got hurt. I saw it all with my own eyes." "That's not what I meant." My mother was taken aback by my outburst, looking somewhat at a loss. "What do you mean by that?" I pressed forward step by step. "In your eyes, is Dylan always that gentle, refined, academically outstanding good boy, while Caleb is just a worthless poor soldier? Kid, watch your tone." My father scolded me sternly. He turned to Caleb, his tone softening slightly. "Caleb, today was unfair to you. I will definitely give you an explanation for this matter." After saying that, he took out his phone and directly dialed Dylan's father. As soon as the call connected, my father got straight to the point and explained the situation. I don't know what was said on the other end of the phone, but I only saw my father's expression growing increasingly grim. After hanging up the phone, he wearily rubbed his temples. "Dylan's father said he would bring Dylan to personally apologize at our home." "What good is an apology?" I persisted relentlessly. "This was attempted premeditated murder. I want to call the police, I want him to go to jail." "Aurora, that's enough," my father snapped. "Our families have been close friends for generations. If this matter escalates, it won't be good for anyone. Dylan is still young, we can't ruin his entire life over one impulsive mistake." "What about Caleb? He almost lost his life. Doesn't his life count as a lifetime?" I demanded, my eyes reddening. My father was left speechless by my retort. Caleb gently tugged at my hand and shook his head at me. "Uncle, I've already reported this to the police. Let's wait for the investigation results from the authorities." His tone was calm, yet resolute. My father stared at him in surprise, seemingly taken aback by his firmness. Just then, Caleb's phone rang. He answered, and after listening for just a few moments, his expression changed instantly. "I understand. I'll return to the team immediately." After hanging up the phone, he looked at me, his eyes filled with deep apology. "Aurora, there's an emergency task with the team. I must go back right away." "Emergency task?" My heart tightened instantly. I knew all too well what an emergency task meant when he said it. It meant danger, the unknown, and the possibility that he might disappear for another long stretch of time. In my previous life, the news of his severe injury came right after he completed one of those emergency tasks. "How long will you be gone?" I grabbed his arm, my voice trembling. "I don't know." He looked at me, his eyes filled with guilt and reluctance. "I'm sorry, Aurora. I just promised to be with you." It's okay, I'll wait for you. I cut him off. You're a soldier. The country needs you. I'll wait for you to come back. When I said those words, even I was stunned. In the past, I would have made a huge scene, scolding him for putting work before me and calling him an unfeeling robot. But now, all I feel is heartache. My heart aches because the wounds on his body haven't healed, and yet he's already heading to the next battlefield. My heart aches because even though he cares for me so deeply, he has no choice but to shoulder even heavier responsibilities. Caleb was also stunned. He looked at me, a storm raging in his eyes. Aurora, you. Go. I stood on tiptoe and lightly kissed his slightly chapped lips. Stay safe, and make sure you come back in one piece. I'll wait for you to come back, and then we'll get our marriage certificate. This was a promise. It was a promise I made to him, and also to myself. Caleb's eyes were as red as if they were about to bleed. He didn't say a word, just held me tightly, so tightly in his arms. The force was so great, it was as if he wanted to crush me into his very bones and blood. After a long time, he finally let go of me and pressed a burning kiss onto my forehead. Wait for me. With those words, he turned and strode toward his car, without the slightest hesitation. I knew that from the moment he put on that military uniform, his life no longer belonged solely to himself, but more so to this nation and its people. Watching his car disappear at the end of the road, my tears finally couldn't help but fall. My parents stood behind me, their expressions complex. Aurora, it seems, you've really grown up. My dad sighed. My mom walked over too and wrapped an arm around my shoulder. Silly child, let's go inside. It's windy out. Back home, I shut myself in my room. Over and over, my mind replayed every detail since reuniting with Caleb. In the past, I always thought he was dull, lacking romance, unable to even utter sweet nothings. But now I understand that his love is hidden in his actions. It's hidden in his back, which shielded me from danger, in his eyes, filled with reluctance yet determination whenever he received a mission, and in that bullet shell ring he treasured like a precious gem. That evening, Dylan and his father indeed came. The red mark on Dylan's face from my slap had yet to fade. The moment he stepped inside, he fell to his knees with a thud. Uncle, Aunt, Aurora. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I lost my mind today, I'm not even human. He wept and confessed, knocking his head on the floor until it thudded loudly. Dylan's father also joined in, speaking on his behalf and saying he would strictly discipline him, begging us to give him another chance. My mom's heart softened, and she wanted to help him up. I stopped her. Dylan, I looked down at him from above. Did you think I'd believe you just because you put on this show of suffering? The preliminary results from the police station have come out. There was nothing wrong with your car. The so-called brake failure was a scenario you orchestrated yourself. Both Dylan and my parents were stunned. When did this happen? My dad asked. While you were still hesitating whether to plead for him or not. I took out my phone, which showed a message sent by Caleb's comrade. Although Caleb had returned to his unit, he had asked his comrades to follow up on this matter. That's just like him, meticulous, always arranging everything for me. Dylan, what you're currently suspected of is intentional assault, even attempted murder. I struck each word into his heart. Did you think kneeling and kowtowing a few times would make it all go away? Dylan's face turned completely deathly pale. He knew he was truly finished this time. Aurora, he suddenly looked up, his face twisted in a savage roar. What is it about me that I don't measure up to that soldier? I like you so much, why can't you see me? Because you're not worthy, I said coldly, staring at him. You're not even fit to polish his boots. My man, he defends the country, steadfast and unyielding, he holds great love in his heart, standing tall between heaven and earth. And you, Dylan, I sneered, curling the corner of my mouth contemptuously, are nothing but a maggot, skulking in the shadows and scheming with dirty tricks. My words were like a poisoned blade, each syllable piercing his heart. Dylan completely broke down, collapsing to the floor as his face turned ashen. Dylan's father trembled with rage at the sight of his son's utterly hopeless state and slapped him once more. Ungrateful wretch! How could I have brought such a disgrace into this world? In the end, how he and his father left, I didn't care anymore. All I knew was that from that day on, the name Dylan completely vanished from my world. He faced legal consequences for suspected intentional assault. Dylan's family business also took a heavy hit in the stock market due to the scandal, suffering significant losses. My parents finally saw Dylan's true colors and felt both guilty and fearful for me. My mom held my hand, crying several times, saying she had been blind back then and almost ruined her daughter's life. I told them it was all over. Everyone has to pay for their mistakes, whether it's Dylan or myself. The days that followed were unusually tranquil for me. I quit the cushy job that came through family connections and began diligently studying company management. I stopped attending those noisy parties and cocktail gatherings, dedicating all my time to self-improvement. I started to understand what my father often referred to as responsibility, and I began to comprehend the weight that Caleb carried on his shoulders. I messaged him, telling him about my recent life, and sharing what I did each day. Most of the time, the messages sank like stones. I knew he was on missions and couldn't use his phone. But sometimes, late at night, I'd receive a brief reply from him. Maybe just a single okay, or a short take care of yourself. Just a few words, yet they were enough to keep me happy for the whole day. I threaded his bullet shell ring onto a red cord and wore it close to my chest, around my neck. Whenever I faced hardships and felt like giving up, I would touch it. The cool touch of the metal seemed to give me endless strength. I thought, when he returns, I must become someone capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with him. Rather than being like before, just a daughter that needed his shelter. Time passed quickly, and 3 months went by in the blink of an eye. One day, while I was at the company handling an urgent document, I suddenly received a call from an unfamiliar number. On the other end of the line was a calm male voice. "Excuse me, is this Ms. Aurora?" "Yes, I am." "I am the political commissar of Caleb's unit." The other party's tone was serious. "Caleb sustained severe injuries during a mission and is currently undergoing emergency treatment at the Military District General Hospital." With a thud, my mind went completely blank. The phone slipped from my hand, fell to the floor, and shattered into pieces. When I arrived at the Military District General Hospital, Caleb was still in the emergency room. Outside the operating room, the glowing red light resembled a beast ready to devour its prey, making my heart race with fear. Caleb's superior, the political commissar named Marcus, was pacing anxiously in the corridor. When he saw me, he immediately walked over, his face filled with sorrow and apology. "I'm sorry, Miss Aurora, we didn't take good care of him." "How is he?" My voice trembled uncontrollably. "His condition is very serious," Marcus said with an extremely grave expression. "During the mission, he shielded his comrades and was caught in the blast of a bomb. Several pieces of shrapnel embedded in his body, one of them is less than a centimeter from his heart." Less than a centimeter from his heart. My world was spinning. My legs gave way, and I could barely stand, leaning against the wall to keep from collapsing. Is the tragedy from my past life going to replay itself? No, it won't. I bite my lip hard, tasting a trace of blood. In this life, I was reborn not to watch him die before me again. He promised me he would return safely. He promised me he would give me the most formal proposal. He won't break his word. I wait outside the emergency room, enduring every passing second. Time has never felt so long. Every moment feels like agony in an oil pan. My mind kept replaying every moment we shared. I remembered how nervous he was when he first met me, his arms and legs moving in sync like a child. I remembered him waiting in line for 2 hours under the scorching sun just to buy me my favorite ice cream. I remembered him standing foolishly outside my apartment all night, just to be the first to wish me a happy birthday at the stroke of midnight. Those gestures of romance I once dismissed as cheap and insignificant now felt like knives, carving into my heart piece by piece. I don't know how long it had been, but finally, the light in the emergency room went out. The door swung open, and doctors and nurses wheeled out a hospital bed. I rushed over like a madwoman. On the bed, Caleb's eyes were tightly shut, an oxygen mask covering his face, his complexion as pale as paper. If not for the faint rise and fall of his chest, I would have almost thought. "Doctor. How is he?" I grabbed the doctor's white coat, my words frantic and incoherent. "The surgery was a success. All the shrapnel has been removed." The doctor took off his mask, revealing a tired but relieved face. "The patient has an incredibly strong will to live and is already out of life-threatening danger." He is out of life-threatening danger. These words, like a heavenly melody, instantly made my legs give way and I collapsed to the ground. A surge of immense joy and lingering fear washed over me, intertwining and overwhelming my nerves. I lay there on the ground, crying loudly, weeping like a child. Caleb was transferred to the intensive care unit. Through the thick glass, I watched him lying there quietly, tubes of all kinds inserted into his body. My heart ached so badly it felt hard to breathe. Marcus told me that the level of danger Caleb faced on this mission was unprecedented. They were facing a group of heinous international criminals. At the last moment, it was Caleb who single-handedly threw himself toward the bomb about to detonate, using his own body to shield his comrades from the most lethal impact. He saved the entire squad's lives. He was a hero. When Marcus left, he handed me a box. "This is the suicide note Caleb wrote before setting out. He said if you didn't come back, to give this to you." "Will." My hands were shaking so badly, I could hardly hold the heavy box. I didn't dare open it. I was afraid that seeing its contents would shatter me completely. I stayed outside the ICU, 3 days and 3 nights without leaving. I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I didn't sleep or rest. My parents rushed over, and Caleb's parents came from their hometown. Everyone urged me to go back and rest, but I just shook my head. I wanted to be here, waiting for him to wake up. I wanted to tell him with my own lips that I love him. On the 4th morning, Caleb's vital signs finally stabilized. He was transferred to a general ward. I could finally stay close by his side. I sat by his hospital bed, holding his cold hand, which had lost blood, and kissed his knuckles over and over again. "Caleb, please wake up soon, okay? You liar, you promised me you'd come back safely. You promised to give me the most formal proposal. Where's the ring? Where's the best ring in the world?" As I spoke, my tears fell once again, landing on the back of his hand. At that moment, I felt his fingers twitch ever so slightly. I lifted my head abruptly and met his slowly opening eyes. Those deep eyes still held a trace of weakness and weariness, but at the moment they saw me, they lit up with the gentlest light in all the world. He opened his mouth as if to say something. I quickly leaned in close to listen. His voice was so hoarse it was almost inaudible. He said, "Aurora, don't cry. I'm not dead. I still want to marry you." My tears could no longer be held back. I held him, crying so hard I could hardly catch my breath. He wasn't dead. My hero had returned. Under my meticulous care, Caleb's body gradually recovered day by day. The scar on his chest, like a ferocious centipede, coiled across his strong torso. Every time I change his dressing, I can't help but want to cry. But he turns it around and comforts me, saying this is a man's badge of honor. He tells me that during the days he was unconscious, he had a very, very long dream. He dreamed of a past life. In the dream, he got into a car accident, became paralyzed in both legs, and had to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. In the dream, he saw me listen to Dylan's temptation and abandon him. I dreamed that I met an unfortunate end in a foreign land, my fragrant life extinguished. I dreamed that, like a madman, he disregarded everyone's opposition, dragged his crippled legs to avenge me, and then, holding my ashes, walked toward the end of his own life. That dream was too real. He caressed my face, his eyes filled with lingering fear, so real that when I woke up and saw you, I thought I was seeing you from beneath the earth. I held him and told him that it wasn't a dream. I recounted to him, in its entirety, the story of my rebirth. After hearing it, he remained silent for a long time. He just held me even tighter. So that's how it is. He whispered softly, so you've suffered so much too. So, he cupped my face, looking at me with utmost seriousness, we saved each other, right? I nodded vigorously. Yes, we saved each other. And we saved this love that almost slipped away. On the day of discharge, the weather was beautiful. Because of his heroic performance during this mission, Caleb received a first-class merit and was exceptionally promoted. The military held a grand award ceremony for him. In front of all my comrades and leaders, dressed in a brand-new military uniform with gleaming star insignias on his shoulders, he held a bouquet of flowers and knelt on one knee before me. He took a velvet box out of his pocket and opened it. Inside was not a diamond ring as large as a pigeon's egg. Instead, it was a simple platinum ring, engraved on the inner band with our names. Beside the names, a small, irregular piece of metal was inlaid. I recognized it immediately. It was a fragment from the ring I had given him, the one made from a bullet casing. Ms. Aurora, he looked up at me, his gaze blazing, his voice loud and resolute, echoing throughout the entire auditorium. In the past, I always thought of giving you the best the world has to offer. But later, I realized that the best isn't about how valuable the material things are, it's about this heart of mine, which will forever beat for you. This ring was made by melting down the gold from my first military medal and fusing it with the very first ring I ever made for you. It represents my loyalty, my life, and everything I am. Now, I give you all that I have. Will you marry me, be my wife, and stand by my side to protect our shared country and home? Below the stage, thunderous applause and cheers erupted. Marry him. Marry him. I looked at him, at this man I have loved for 2 lifetimes, tears streaming down my face as I smiled like a blooming flower. I took the ring and solemnly placed it on my finger. I do, I replied loudly and with absolute clarity. I thought that proposal was the peak of romance. I never expected Caleb had an even bigger surprise prepared for me. On the day we registered our marriage, he took leave and deliberately changed into casual clothes. I asked him where we were going, and he mysteriously replied that I would find out when we got there. He drove me back to Lakeside Amusement Park, the very place we had agreed to meet in our previous life. He said, I want to cover all our bad memories with beautiful ones. He held my hand and, like all couples in love, we tried every single attraction in the amusement park. While riding the merry-go-round, this tall and tough guy clumsily rode on the small wooden horse next to mine, making all the kids around laugh at him. He didn't mind at all. He just kept looking at me, his eyes filled with affection. When we rode the roller coaster, I screamed the whole time in fear, but he held my hand tightly and whispered over and over in my ear, "Don't be afraid, I'm here with you." When the Ferris wheel reached its highest point, the night view of the entire city unfolded before our eyes. He hugged me from behind, his chin resting on top of my head. Aurora, look, this is what I guard. Before, I guarded it out of duty. Now, there's an extra reason. Because within it lies the person I most want to protect. I turned around and kissed him on the lips. As we stepped out after getting our marriage certificate, 2 rows of young soldiers in military uniforms stood at the entrance. Seeing us come out, they all saluted in a precise military manner, then shouted in unison, "Salute!" Wishing the captain and sister-in-law a happy marriage and a lifetime of harmony. The voices were loud and clear, soaring straight to the sky. Passers-by were stunned by the scene, hurriedly taking out their phones to snap pictures. I looked at Caleb, he scratched his head a bit sheepishly, they insisted on coming. My eyes grew moist. Is this the privilege of being a military spouse? I love it, truly love it. Later, I finally opened that last letter. There were no lengthy farewells inside. There was only a solo photo of him in his military uniform and my bullet casing ring, strung on a red cord. On the back of the photo was his bold, flowing handwriting. I have devoted my life to serving my country and my people. And I am devoted to you.